Welcome to E39 Source. It's Ryan Schultz here with my father's 2006 BMW E60 M5. As requested, we're going to do a bit of an update, same style I do on my E39 back in Ohio. We have Hassan down and his Anthracite 2000. See if I can coerce him into doing an update soon. That car has come a long way and it is unbelievably beautiful inside and out. Maybe we'll do a little walk around on that thing at the end of this one. But today we're focusing on the E60. So the last, really the only content that I've completely featured this car in has been the for sale video. Several months ago we put a video up on the channel noting that this car was for sale at, I forget the price at the time, but it had about 79 or 80,000 miles on it. And the market on the E60 has dropped like a rock over the last couple of years. They were once, within a year, $22,000, $25,000 cars. Now this one's worth like $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 for a 2006 that's been very well taken care of, with service history, with 79,000 miles, and that's ridiculous. So we're just going to keep it. Right now it's being used as kind of a daily driver beater car. He's put very few miles on the F10. I'm not sure why, but that's the way he's doing things. So a lot of stuff's changed with this. A lot of service has been done. It's been incredibly unreliable over the last several months, and we've had to put a ton of money into it, but we'll detail some of that today. So clearly the most visible change that you could tell from the outside, I said this car was a 2006. It was made the second day of E60 M5 production. It is the 34th or the 36th. I believe the 34th E60 M5 made for the US market, an NB93 car. It did not come with these headlights and taillights. We have fully facelifted, done the LCI, the life cycle impulse for the lighting. We did a video on the channel. It's probably published before this. It's a very long one detailing how to do that if you're so interested. So we did both taillights, obviously both headlights, had to change the light module since this car was made before the production, I think was September of '06. So that was a huge, huge improvement. Then we put in, you won't see during the day, but go check out the headlight video if you want to, 120 or 140 watt, 6,000 Kelvin halo bulbs. And they look great during the day. I'll turn them on, might as well see if we can see anything. They're very bright at night, but they really look fantastic. And we have them coded on right now as daytime running lights. So like a new BMW, the front headlights, the front halos are illuminated just during, you know, key and ignition. So the middle one is kind of brighter, and that's something I don't know that I like about the life cycle impulse headlights. The middle halo is a lot brighter than the outer one. It appears that way because it's thicker. It's getting the same amount of light, it's just a thicker ring, so more light makes it in there. And then we did the 6000K LED 3x24 diode license plate lights as well. They're crazy, crazy bright. You won't be able to tell in this lighting, but they're up there, nice bright fresh white. So the outside of this car at night is now a full LCI. Things that give it away as a pre-life cycle impulse are still the early door panels with a awkward integration of the switches, and it still has CCC navigation as opposed to CIC. We don't use it, so that's probably not going to be an upgrade. So we spent several weeks diagnosing an issue of increased emissions, reduced power. It would fluctuate between two limp modes, the more aggressive of which limited us to 2,000 RPM and would not go out of third gear, and it would not allow you to use the throttle. It was purely using something such as an idle control valve. The car maybe made 50 horsepower. It was all it could do to climb the street to get up to the top of the hill. So we did a bunch of diagnosis. We had to replace the mass airflow meters. So we have two new MAFs in here, about 84,000 miles, 85,000 miles, two new Bosch MAFs. We had to replace the battery. The battery voltage was low. We coated the battery. Then there were some fusing issues. One of the fuses was misplaced. I'll take fault for that. I think it was like fuse 22 was in slot 21. So we replaced that. And then finally we had a car that made power again. Looking into it with my research, I feared that it was the throttle actuators. Again, we've already done them on this car. It was over $5,000 to have it done at the dealer, and would have been the same in an independent. Both throttle body actuators have been done with the thermostat. That was done about 2 years ago. After that, we got to move on to an oil leak. This car has never dripped a drop of anything, so to see it dripping oil was kind of an unfortunate day. Turned out to be the oil cooler, which is that very narrow radiator down here at the bottom, just behind the grill. So we replaced the oil cooler, replaced the lines, the bushings, all the hardware that goes along, all the fastening hardware that goes along with the oil cooler. And then obviously it gets an oil change and filter at that point. Then we moved on to a vibration. This car's always driven smoothly at any speed, but noticing it over the summer, and it only got worse going into the fall, there was vibration right around 90 miles an hour, and it would get worse above that. So we balanced the front tires, it wasn't that. Balanced the rear tires, it wasn't that. I think we did them all at once. So it's not tire balance. Got under the car and it turns out to be the tension struts. So we had those replaced. I'm not equipped here with the tools to do it myself. If I were, I would have, but I'm not yet. So the tension struts were done. It got new rear Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires in the rear. We're still running Pilot Super Sports in the front. And then it got a four-wheel alignment. And then it drove smoothly. Since the E60 is being kept now and is being used more than any other car here at the house, we decided to put it back in a little bit nicer condition in the way of just adding some things back to it. We got the lights on and they look great, so we went and got another M5 license plate frame, put one of those on there. And then we put the BMW valve stem caps back on. Just stupid, easy stuff that makes it look nicer. We had originally robbed those parts from this car and moved them to the F10, but we bought new ones, put the new ones on the F10 and put the old ones back on the E60. So the little details make it look a lot nicer. Within the past week, it has received a brake fluid flush per the CBS system on the navigation. Required that again. I guess it had been 50,000 miles. So fresh brake fluid flush. It just got an oil change and filter. It just got an oil pan gasket. It just got connecting rod bearings. It just got Vanos pressure line. It just got deflection pulley, and it just got a oil pump chain guide. Yeah. That was kind of a lot of work. 5,000 pound paperweight. Yeah, that's great. Oil pan and engine oil pumps over there. We'll clean it up. It's pretty amazing. Front subframe's weird looking. Yeah, very strange looking. Is that a ground strap? Yep. The alternator's over there. And the diff is the same mic from an SMG and a manual. So 80-some thousand miles, we did a Blackstone oil analysis. We sent it out, and it was brought to our attention that there were some fairly high levels of lead in the engine oil. So that's not ideal. So we figured by the next oil change it was time to replace the connecting rod bearings. That is the Achilles heel of this engine. That is the Achilles heel of this car. It is why I will never own an E60 M5 myself. I'm an E39 guy and I always will be, and people complain about the rod bearings in those cars. They routinely go 250,000 miles on original bearings. These cars, if you are at 100,000 miles and you haven't done them, you really need to do that, because we'll go and look at the worn ones here. I got all the old parts in there. At 86,179 miles, we were finding copper. That is not good. In the Blackstone oil analysis, there was no copper. Well, the copper levels were completely within spec and normal for this engine, that many miles on the oil and the mileage on the engine. So we didn't have anything to worry about right then. Seeing the lead, you're always going to find lead first. You're going to wear through the lead, and then once you're into the copper, now you're at a pretty big risk of scoring your crankshaft journals. Once you get to that point, now you've got to rebuild the motor. It is just bad. You don't want that. And by the time you hear rod knock, it's time to rebuild the motor. So at 86,000 miles, I would not have wanted to wait very much longer at all to go ahead and do those bearings. Here's all the parts. So that's the deflection pulley right there. We have a bunch of washers and O-rings. That's the oil level sensor washer. These are oil pan bolts. That's the high pressure Vanos line that you want to do when you're in there. It's that part number right there, the 1136, just because you're right there. This is the oil pump chain guide, and it was cracked, and they took it off and kind of held it, and it broke all the way off. So we had that replaced. I'm going to clean up some of the oil on these bearings so you don't mistake that for copper, and then we'll get a closer look at those. And then these are all the cap bolts. They're torque to yield bolts, so you have to replace them when you take the caps off the connecting rods. Now they're not completely clean, so some of that discoloration on there is just going to be from the engine oil. Those things have been bathed in for the last, what is that car? 06, for the last 12 years. So down here at the bottom, also I have unfortunately no way of knowing which shells were on top, which ones were on bottom, what cylinder 1, what cylinder 10, or anything in between. All I have is these shells. But we start there at the bottom, and yeah, they're worn, but no huge cause for concern there. And we move up, and there we start to clearly get some copper. So there's really 5 bearings that are showing copper, 4 of which are like pretty, that's kind of a lot of copper to find on rod bearings, I think. I've never seen E39 bearings look like that, but they assured us that the crankshaft's good, everything is fine. They replaced them with stock size red and blue 53 millimeter bearings, and oil pressure's fine, and it's warranted for 2 years or 24,000 miles. If you're wondering about approximate cost of this job, so this is all the rod bearings, the cap bolts, all of these gaskets, oil pan bolts, deflection pulley, oil pump chain guide, and the high pressure Vanos line came out to around $3,200, which is pretty fair considering the complexity of that job. And they were able to do it within 2 days, which is really cool. So that is done. We should be good for another 85,000 miles. Back to the car. You guys just saw last week or 2 weeks ago I posted the DIY on the passenger seat occupancy mat delete bypass. I don't know why people freaked out and said it wasn't safe. It codes the computer to say yes, the seat is occupied, blow the airbag. The only negative of that is that if you're in an accident, you're the only person driving, it's going to blow this airbag too. If you're in an accident, one of these cars, to blow any airbags, the car is totaled, it is scrap. That's just the way it is. These things are old and worth nothing now. They cost a fortune to maintain. You can buy them dirt cheap all day, anywhere. It's just old BMWs. That is the world that we're in. So this was a $45 fix for the bypass versus a $3,500 BMW repair that will do the same thing, and you'll have to do it again. So clearly the best solution there was to do the bypass. But anyways, we installed that, did it very well, and that's fixed. So really, for the first time in about 2 months, this car can be driven without any warnings, any errors on the dashboard, no code stored. It is mechanically, I don't know why I couldn't say it's mechanically perfect. It aligns well, it drives well at any speed. There's no mechanical issues with this car today. Within the last year, we've also replaced the rear window seal. I'm not sure why it wore out so much faster than the front windshield seal, but it was just cracking and it looked like hell, and anytime we'd wipe the window, we'd have pieces of it everywhere. So it's like 50 bucks, and we put it in about a half an hour, and really easy job actually. So fresh windshield seal. We just ordered charcoal filters for the cabin filters. It's going to get that. I suppose the next thing is going to be dealing with this transmission. And if I succeed in getting my way, that SMG slush box will be removed from this car permanently. Okay, so we've done a ton of mechanical work, a little bit of cosmetics, kind of a full exterior LCI, life cycle impulse, facelift, whatever you call it. Done a lot. Hopefully we're going to be able to slow down and just drive it and use it and enjoy it. So thanks for watching this update on the E60. It is technically still for sale at the right price, but not a price that is realistic to ask for in the market as it stands today. So thanks for watching this video. We'll talk to you in the next one, but before I officially sign off, I'm just going to give a sneak peek on Hassan's 2000 here. I think he's done an intro on this car and done some videos with it. It's, I want to say it's an April 2000 in anthracite. I'm not going to tell you everything about it, but we'll do a quick walk around here. save the goodies for an update video if he does so. But this is one beautiful example of an Anthracite 2000, inside and out. He's got Hooper tin on there, so we don't see much, but it is a full leather Silverstone Sport interior with Titan trim. Gorgeous, gorgeous car. Alright guys, talk to you in the next E39 Source video. Bye-bye.